It doesn't matter if Mikel Arteta says he's staying. It doesn't matter if he says he's offended and upset by those reports. It does not matter who is being linked with him. It's not true. He's going nowhere. But we're going to discuss that and plenty more in today's Arsenal News Show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back again with you guys for another episode of what is the Arsenal News Show. Joining you every single morning at 8 a.m. UK time. Thank you as always for joining me and making this a part of your morning routines. It is very much appreciated. I hope you've had a fantastic week so far. It's Thursday. You get through today. It's Friday. Happy days. And I hope that you've been having plenty to watch with the Champions League going on and, of course, other football going on around the world as well. And yesterday, of course, which we'll be talking about shortly, a semi-final to discuss as well. But thank you so much, those tuning in. Appreciate your time. As always, Black Shine, Carlton, Amira, Arasilki, Matt G, Damien, Louis, Ans, Morgie, Kaiser, Darren, Tabani, Arsenal Adventure, MD, Stephen, Dave, we've got Glenn and Franklin and Vala and Kish. Thank you so much to Shari and Dominic as well. And Input, thank you so much, all of you, for tuning in, and the rest as well that I sadly don't have time to jump in and say hello to everybody. And those listening on catch up as well. Appreciate you all as well. And I hope that you've had a good week. I feel like it's been, since Monday, you've always got that worry that it's going to take ages to get to the next game. But I feel as though this week's going quite well. For the Champions League, football's helped. I feel like we've got a press conference to talk about tomorrow, of course, because Arteta will be facing the press this afternoon. So I'm feeling good about this. I'm feeling good about the week. I'm feeling good about Arsenal playing in just a couple of days' time as well. And we'll be doing a preview show for you. The aim is at least to do a preview show for you today, this afternoon. So make sure you watch out for that. And I'll be jumping into the Discord server a little bit later to see if we've got people that would like to join us. Right, shall we start with yesterday's big story, which, of course, Arsenal reaching the final of the Conti Cup. 4 goals for Jonas Ardeval's side, a hat-trick for Stina Blackstenius. And, I mean, Marnham only scores special goals, and she scored another special goal yesterday. Fantastic right-footed curling effort over the Villa goalkeeper. 4-0 up by half-time, and then we kind of just thought, yeah, this is done. Second half, very chill, just kind of saw it out and progressed through until the final. Now, tonight, Chelsea play against Manchester City to determine who Arsenal will be going up against to try and hold on to their crown of the Conti Cup. They, of course, won last season. This would be a massive, massive boost for Jonas Ardeval. He's been under pressure this season. There's been expectations surrounding him with no Champions League football, and, of course, Arsenal being slightly behind in the WSL race as well. So to win the Conti Cup would be another brilliant achievement to secure that again. But it's going to be a very tricky final no matter who they're up against. So let's keep those fingers crossed that Arsenal can do the business there as well. Champions League action, as I mentioned last night too. Manchester City getting through 6-2 on aggregate. Akanji, Julian Alvarez and Erling Haaland with the goals. And in the other game, Real Madrid came very close to it being a rather, I suppose, what's the word, a very close shave, I guess, to going out. They'd won 1-0 in Leipzig, and they thought they were going to be comfortably going through, and Vinicius Jr. gave them the lead. But a Willy Orban goal for Leipzig leveled things up, and Dani Olmo hitting the bar in the final moments of the game, which would have taken it to extra time. Real Madrid there sneaking through indeed. So let's see if Real Madrid turn out to be still the I don't know what the right word is. They're just inevitable, I guess, aren't they, in terms of their Champions League progression. But Arsenal need to do the business themselves. Of course, they take on Porto next Tuesday with the hope of progressing to the quarterfinals and joining Real Madrid, Manchester City, PSG, and Bayern Munich, who have all now confirmed their participation in the last 8. Now, Ivan Toney's deal has supposedly called. I mean, we talked about this in February, as you know, but there were some suggestions yesterday going around from other accounts saying that Arsenal's interest in the striker had cooled. Now, as I said before, we talked about this way back in February. the likelihood of Arsenal getting Ivan Toney had dropped considerably because Arsenal just weren't and have dropped kind of their interest, and they're looking at other potential players as well. They're not necessarily as convinced by Ivan Toney as they was previously in the summer window before that ban that he had to receive. So, yes, very intrigued to see what happens with Arsenal's striker situation. But I'm looking forward to Ivan Toney and that saga kind of ending this summer. I think this summer, of course, will spell the end of where that's gonna go. So I'm looking forward to that saga coming to a close and ultimately seeing which striker Arsenal end up moving for. Nico Williams has been linked to Chelsea following talk about a potential move to Arsenal as well. We know that Arsenal was said to be interested in the player that has a £43 million release clause in his athletic club contract. However, Chelsea are looking like the most likely candidate to bring in the Spanish international. It just, I kind of question. I can't remember who it was who was saying this yesterday. I think it might have been Costa actually saying this yesterday. But I do feel as though that I agree in the sense that why would any young player look at Chelsea at the moment and think, yes, that's where I want to start my career in the Premier League. Chelsea, they look like the most stable, consistent, safest place possible for Arsenal to, for me to extend my career. I'm not saying that means that Arsenal, of course, are the right place either, because there's no guarantee of necessarily of the enough minutes that you might get. But Chelsea just seems crazy, absolutely crazy as well. Moving forward to our final story of the day, more rather amusing Arteta exit talk has emerged on the eve, of course, of that press conference. It'll be intriguing to see if Arteta is asked about this again, but this report comes from Alex Pintanel in Relevo, who has suggested that the process of identifying a new coach of Barcelona goes on and that the club has contacted Mikel Arteta, and they say that it is a difficult deal and the coach denied it. One of the coaches that both sporting director Deco and president Joan Laporta like is Arteta, and he fits the profile of the club is looking for. According to the information, however, Barcelona contacted him, but the club described himself as a gunner. If that is true, of course, then that's great. But it's incessant, isn't it? Oh, have I lost camera? I lost camera. Why did I lose camera? That was really strange. I'm on backup camera now. That's really odd. How strange was that? I'll see if I can sort that out. That's never happened before. Apologies for that. We'll try and get the camera original picture back in the second half. But yes, Mikel Arteta not expected to leave Arsenal by any stretch of the imagination, so I wouldn't worry yourselves about that one. And I expect him to sign a new contract with the club as well. Now, you can get involved, of course, with the latest competition, which is that signed Declan Rice shirt. There is some instant win prizes to win, including a Kai Havertz signed shirt, a Danny Sabas signed and framed football boot, and a £50 worth of Arsenal Club Shop voucher as well. So best of luck to everyone who's getting involved. It's a UK-only competition. Half of the tickets have now gone already, so make sure that you get involved if you haven't done so already. Link down, as I say, in the description. Right, let's go to part 2 and let's see if I can sort out this camera. That's so strange. It's never done that before. Let's see if we can sort that out right after this. Right, so this is currently the old camera. Now we're going to see if we can switch it back to the new camera. There we go. That was so weird. It just turned off. It's all plugged in. It's all working fine. I don't know why that happened. Really strange. Really, really, really strange. Maybe there was like a connectivity issue. Maybe that was it. Very, very odd. Anyway, we're back. So let's jump into the chat box, of course, as always, for part 2. And get some of your thoughts on things. That's why we have a backup camera plugged in, you see. So it's always got to be prepared in case things go wrong. David says, Arteta is a Gooner indeed. You're absolutely right, mate. Reese says, sell Vieira and Smith Rowe for Xavi Simons. Another wonder kid insisted. Dean says, hello from New Zealand and love the show, Tom. Thanks, D. Much appreciated. If you could, by the way, I know I've not pushed it yet. If you could drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, help us to get to 1K every single day. If you're listening on those audio platforms, please hop over to YouTube and do let us know that you've hopped over from those Spotify and Amazon and Google and iTunes, and all those places that you listen to the show just on audio only. And make sure you drop a like and help us to our target. That would be massively, massively appreciated. And yesterday was our most watched video of the year so far, which is fantastic. Over 22,000 of you tuned into yesterday's show. So thank you so much for those. And if this was the first time that you've seen the channel and you're joining us for the first time, we do these shows every single day. Oh, goodness me. I don't punch the microphone that often, though. And of course, we do have the best community, as I always recommend and say on here. 99%. I say we've got a 99% success rate. You can never validate 100%, but 99% of us here are brilliant, and they are brilliant. So welcome to the TGT family and the TGT community, as always. Mark says, do you credit the rumours that Mudryk might wind up coming to Arsenal, and for a lower price? Would you want him? It seems he's yet another competitor for Martinelli, not so much for Saka. Without doubt, Mark, there is credibility in what the Athletic have reported regarding people at the club still being admirers of Mudryk. That, without a doubt, is true. There hasn't necessarily been suggestions, at least not concrete ones, that Arsenal would go again and try and sign Mudryk, from what I understand or from what I've even seen. I've not seen that suggestion. I've just seen the suggestions that there's admirers of Mudryk at the club, which is true. However, I think that the likelihood is that Arsenal probably wouldn't. I could be wrong, but I think that they'll be looking, as you say, for somebody that can cover more comfortably on the right-hand side than on the left-hand side. We've got a lot of options on the left. We've got Trossard and Martinelli and Smith Rowe. Jesus can even go there, of course. So I don't think that there is a necessity. Nelson, of course, still here at the moment too. We haven't necessarily got that need to sign another left-sided player. So I doubt it, mate. I doubt it very much. JPZ said Arsenal should get a top striker, a Vlahovic, a Watkins, a Isak, sell Nketiah, shift Jesus to a winger position, and allow Havertz to play as the false nine more often as well. Vlahovic is going to be signing a brand new contract with Juventus, so we can stop suggesting him as a potential option. Watkins, of course, is one of my top options. Isak, I think it's going to be very difficult to get him out of Newcastle, but again, would be one of my top options. And you know that Victor Gyökeres is my number one pick at the moment. Nell says, Tom, what time will the preview show be? Probably about 6 o'clock. So watch out for that one. John says, who can we get as a definite competitor for Saka? We're always seeing left wingers linked to the club. Yeah, I think Pedro Neto is one that I like a lot. Nico Williams was, of course, another one, of course, that can play on the right too. But there's not necessarily a standout candidate right now. There is a list, and Arsenal do have a list of wingers that they're interested in, but we'll be intrigued to see which one emerges as the number one candidate in the summer and who Arsenal end up pushing for the most. There's been suggestions that Rafinha of Barcelona could be available, and Arsenal have been keen on him, as we know in the past. They made bids for him at Leeds when he was there. Could he be somebody that Arsenal look to come and bring in again? If indeed they see an opening there, I guess we'll have to wait and see. Dano says, with a dearth of sure things in terms of a striker, wouldn't it make sense to target Isak and Douglas Luiz, as both Villa and Newcastle need to sell for FFP reasons? I think if Arsenal still see those players as potential candidates, without question, they should be looked at as options. Whether they end up being those key and main options in the summer remains to be seen, but I absolutely think that you're right. Paul says, I've just restarted the show. I've got my sound back. I was having a bit of a moment. Paul, that's absolutely fine, mate. It is incredibly frustrated on my end when I see those comments like, the sound's gone. I can't hear Tom. Why can't I hear him? Tom, your mic's gone. And then it turns out to be you. Always make sure that you double and triple check that it's you before it's me, because it really throws me off whenever I see a comment like, Tom, your sound's gone. I know some people do it to try and wind me up, and we try and spot those people and we ban them. But I know that, Paul, that was a genuine mistake, and I could certainly tell that it was. Gage says, as for the midfield, are we looking for a 6 to allow Rice to play more forward? And if so, are we going to be going for a Kimmich or a Zubimendi? Well, Kimmich I haven't really heard of being on the radar for Arsenal, even though his situation at Bayern doesn't look great. But Tuchel is going to be leaving at the end of the season, so that doesn't necessarily seem like that will continue to be an issue. But Kimmich is a great player, but maybe not the midfielder we're looking at right now. Zubimendi certainly is a player that Arsenal are keen on and do like a lot. Whether he turns out to be the player that will come to Arsenal, again, we'll have to wait and see. And I do think that is the more stylistic choice, the deeper defensive midfielder, the Partey replacement, where Rice will then play further forward. And I think that Rice has been doing very, very well in those advanced positions too. So that's worth pointing out also. Steve says, Tom, the white balance needs adjusting on the new camera. It's slightly too warm and yellowy. Oh, well, I appreciate the feedback, and I'll have a look into it for you, mate, Steve. But cameras are very new to me. I don't mind it looking a little bit too warm, but apparently it's too warm. It's difficult because you've got the camera screen on the camera up there, and then I've got the camera screen on my laptop, which obviously is not necessarily what you're always seeing, so it can be tricky. But Steve, I'll look into that for you, mate. Granddaddy Gooner Paul says, do you think that the introduction of Kivior is the big reason behind how freely we're scoring? I think the team are more relaxed with our defence because he makes us more solid and keeps on kind of pressing us, helping going forwards. Is Kivior the big reason why we're scoring so many? I'm reluctant to say yes, because his role in the team isn't necessarily as defined as thinking that's what turns you into a 4, 5, 6 goal per game team. I just think that Kivior has offered us some great defensive stability. I think he does support the left-hand side really, really well, and I think he's improving every single game. But I think there's more credit to be given, more so maybe to the inversion of White and actually, obviously, the contributions of the attacking players on the field. But I absolutely understand where you're coming from, Paul. And I think that Kivior's introduction has certainly helped and contributed to what has made us so threatening in attack as well. Adrian says, I was thinking exactly the same. If Jesus moved wide, we could bring in a top striker and a winger. It's going to be an exciting summer. I'm really looking forward to the summer transfer window, and I can't wait to see what Arsenal end up doing. Derek says, hi, mate. Geez, Chelsea really do make me sick. Nose is stuck in everything. I would take Isaac all day. He is a top striker, and also I reckon that we go for Louise. I'm not sure on Zubamendi. AFC Cape Town says Nico is two-footed and can play on both wings. Last season mainly as a right winger, and this season he's played mainly as a left winger. Indeed, as we've mentioned. Let's go to Matt. Says, if we sell Reece and Eddie, how much would you reckon they'd go for? I think we'd be lucky to get around 50 million for Reece Nelson. And I think Eddie and Nketiah, we should be aiming for as close to 30 million as we can. That's what I'd be looking for both of those two. And then Smith Rowe, of course, who also could leave. You should be looking to get upwards of 30, close to 40 million, I think, for Smith Rowe. And if you can make yourself, 70 to 80 million off the back of those three players leaving, that's some great business that Arsenal have been able to do. Nell says, Tom, I saw a post yesterday saying 18 more Mondays until the Euros and beer garden weather. Who would be your starting 11 and bench for England? I'm sure Southgate could use the help. It's a good question. Who would be my starting 11 for England? My English football knowledge in terms of the England national team does waver somewhat sometimes because of my, what's the word? Aversion to international football. But in goal, I think at the moment you have to pick Jordan Pickford because Aaron Ramsdale's not playing and Nick Pope's been injured, of course, as well. So I think Pickford is the candidate at the moment. I think at right back, I would go Ben White personally because I think, even Kyle Walker's been excellent and I think you've got other options there too, like Trippier. But you have Bukayo Saka on the right. Why break up that partnership, that relationship? Utilize that relationship that those two have. So yes, I'd go White and White at centre back, Tomori, and who would be the other centre half that I would go for at the moment? It's a tough one. That John Stones, I guess, would be the obvious choice. So Tomori and Stones at the back. Left back would be Shaw's injured at the moment. We don't know if he's going to be fit. Chilwell, of course, has been back fit and one of the better ones for Chelsea. And then, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about the other position. I'll come back to left back. At the moment, I think it just has to probably be Chilwell. It's probably one of our weakest positions is left back. So I'll say Chilwell at the moment. Then into midfield, and this is where it gets exciting because I haven't even mentioned Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think that Alexander-Arnold's got a real hope of getting into this team in a midfield role potentially in the future. And it could be Trent, Rice, and Bellingham as your three. Some people would say it should be Rice, Foden, and Bellingham, but I like Foden in the forward line, and I think Foden can play on the left as well. So I'm personally going with Trent and Rice in the midfield, with Bellingham alongside them, and then Saka, Kane, and Foden as my front three at the moment. That would be my team for England right now. Brad says, hey, Tom, normally listen on Spotify as work nights, and I was thinking, even though Saliba and Gabriel have a great partnership, would you agree that Gabriel is still severely underrated? Yes, Gabriel's been our best defender this season. This season, Gabriel is the GOAT. He is the number one defender in the Arsenal setup for me. He's been brilliant and fantastic. And I just think that Saliba's had a few moments this year, which has made me a little nervous. And he's made a couple of errors, of course. But Gabriel has been the most consistent defender that we've had in the team this season, without a doubt. And he's leading the way in that regard. Jim says, Tom, I had a dream last night and I see our team on top of a bus holding the league and Champions League trophies. Jim, I hope your dream comes true, mate. And it sounds like it was a great one at that. Damien says, Trippier at left back. Chilwell is injured too often. Well, I mean, if he's available, of course. But I see where you're coming from, Damien. Where is Harry Maguire, says Z? Yeah, nowhere near the team, mate. John says, Gabriel was scapegoated in his early days. You're absolutely right, John. He was. Gabriel was one of the most scapegoated players that we had at Arsenal. I remember writing an article about him, I think in 2022, that was suggesting that Gabriel was becoming one of our most scapegoated players. There are some people out there that should hang their heads in shame in how they spoke about Gabriel Magalhaes. And I think the similar people are going to be saying the same about Kai Havertz in the future as well. People want to jump on these players far too quick. You've got to let them breathe. You've got to let them cook and see how they flourish, because goodness me, people they make themselves end up looking quite silly when they make those quick judgments. Adrian says, do you think the team will still be as confident going forward and defending with Ramsdale at the back? He is a great keeper, but not played, which might destabilise the team. Of course, Ramsdale is coming into this team for the game against Brentford. I think that we'll be fine. I think we will be okay. I mean, he trains with them every single day. So I think we'll be okay, Adrian. They played with Ramsdale plenty before as well. So I don't think there's anything to worry about too much right now. Gage says, is Barella a player Arsenal might be interested in? Not really heard anything about Barella and Arsenal. I know he was linked to Newcastle quite a lot, but no, not at the moment. Not really heard anything about Arsenal with Barella. Chunho says, I reckon that Gabriel starts at Brazil in the Copa America this summer. Definitely a question that we could. Michael says, start, bench, sell, Varane, Gabriel or Mickey. Start, Gabriel, bench, Mickey van der Ven, and sell Rafael Varane. Van der Ven has been very good for Spurs, to be fair to him this season. And Rafa Varane has certainly dipped at Manchester United, it would be fair to say. Let's go to Tyzer, who says, hi, Tom, do you think Arteta has learned from last season and Pep with Arsenal starting slow and then coming into form in the second half of the season? Yes, definitely. We've talked about this before. I think that Arsenal were doing some tweaking and tinkering in the first half of the campaign. We were still picking up wins and points, really importantly, but it wasn't necessarily it hadn't clicked as well as it has this season. There was always that joke of talking about the word fluidity, that we weren't looking as fluid. Well, goodness me, we look fluid now. We look very, very good now. The Croc says, I tend to think our fluidity has been enhanced more by Havertz's style of play. With Jesus, much as I like the guy, he's always looking to draw fouls and falling on the floor. Havertz is more physical. I think that the greater physicality of Havertz helps, but I think Jesus is still, contributed massively to Arsenal's attacking form. I mean, look at the Champions League games that he's played in, and we've dominated with Jesus as that centre forward. So I think both can work really, really well. Paul says, great show with Sophie on her channel. Stay top. Thank you, mate. Very much appreciate that. Make sure you follow Sophie on Twitter, TV Gunner. Wonton Soup says, with defenders, it can go either way. Mistakes can kill them or build them. With Gabriel, luckily, it's the latter. Ant says, Tom, has your opinion on the away shirt changed yet? It seems to be a lucky strip for us. Hey, look, my opinion has not changed on the away kit. And I don't necessarily want to tempt fate or change anything at the moment. I don't want to get that away shirt yet. I don't want to do anything about that away shirt, because at the moment, I can be a superstitious person. And so therefore, I'm not going anywhere near that away kit. It's doing great things, but I'm not buying it, and you know the rules. We will buy an away shirt with Havertz on the back if we win the league. That is the way that it goes. That is the what's the words? The promise that I make to you. Let's go to let's scroll up. And Michael says, I asked that question because about Rafa Varane and Van der Ven and Gabriel, because Mark Goldbridge said the complete opposite. I just want to see what an Arsenal fan would say. What did he say? Did he say sell Gabriel, bench Van der Ven, and keep Varane? Is that what he said? I'll be curious to know what he said. By the way, I have a relatively decent amount of time for Mark Goldbridge typically, but I thought his comments on Andrea Nana really did cross a line. I thought I did watch some of the clips that came out of their game against Manchester City, and calling your own players to see you next Tuesday, telling him to go back to Italy and all that. I thought that was despicable, to be honest, for the record. So yeah, it's pretty terrible. I thought that watch along was. I get it when you're frustrated. Trust me, I get frustrated at Arsenal. I was very frustrated watching that Porto game, but you just doesn't happen. It's just not okay to do that. I get what people say in their own homes. I get what people say to themselves. I get what people say in the stadium under their breath or whatever. And sometimes, there's a difference between being on camera to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people and saying what was said and saying something in your own home or, under your breath in frustration. I get that. It doesn't make it necessarily okay, but there is a difference for me, a big, big difference. Nell says, Tom, what are you expecting from Liverpool against City this weekend? Obviously, we want a draw preferably, but I think it's unlikely. What's the better result for us? I lean toward a Liverpool win, if anything. It's a huge game now, and you're right to bring it up because we've not necessarily talked about it much this week. I think a draw is the best result. Some people are really pointing out they'd rather City win because if City win and then we beat City at the Etihad, it's in our hands, of course, with 9 games to go or whatever. And I get that. I think there's positivity to look at in any result from that game. I think it's just good that they both play each other, because it means that at least one is going to drop points. So yeah, let's wait and see what happens. But it's a really intriguing game, and I'm looking forward to watching it on Sunday. Chunho says, Tom, do you think Timber will be in the squad against Brentford to prep him for the Porto game? He is registered for the Champions League squad. I don't know. Is the honest answer. I do not know. So no idea. Absolutely no idea. We'll hear from Arteta today. We'll see what he says about Timber, and we'll see what he says about Tomiyasu. Jesus as well is one to look out for from Arteta and Zinchenko also. Let's go to Ishan says, hi Tom, any news on Martinelli's injury? Again, we'll hear from Arteta today. So early afternoon, you'll get an update from Arteta on that one. So I look forward to talking about that tomorrow morning. Brian says, Tom, don't make it racial. What do you mean? Andrea Nana came from Italy, from Inter Milan. I didn't make it racial, Brian, at all. Don't know what you're talking about. Can behave. John says, do you think Ramsdale will try to play more like Raya this weekend, as he knows that's what Mikel Arteta wants, and he's been training with Raya since last August? I think Ramsdale will be just doing most of the things that he's been doing. There might be some more emphasis because he's starting this week, but yeah, very. I think that the choice between the two has really diverged in 2024. I think a lot of people have got on the Raya train, and that's very, very important. Russ says, no point rushing Timber back. We have done without him all season. I absolutely agree. We shouldn't be rushing Timber back at all. Prodigy says, do you believe we can beat City away? I absolutely do, mate. Yeah, I absolutely do believe that we can beat City away. We absolutely should do. Barry says, will Toney play against us or is he injured? There was suggestions he was limping off in their game against Chelsea. We'll have to wait for Thomas Frank's press conference. I'm not sure when that is, actually, but I'm sure Thomas Frank will provide an update. They are missing a lot of their defenders. I saw, I think it was Alex from a different knock talking about this. I really did. I think it was a brave tweet, but I like it. I like the confidence. It's very, very important. And says, Tom, do you trust Hein to be our number 2 if Ramsdale leaves? Hein is a very good young goalkeeper, but I don't think that necessarily he's ready to be a number 2. I think Arsenal would need to go into the market and get another goalkeeper in if Ramsdale was to leave. Brett says, I would love to see Partey, Rice and Odegaard in midfield against Porto. It's possible. We might see it. I think Partey will get some more minutes this weekend against Brentford. I'd be surprised if he starts, but I'd be intrigued to see. I actually think that Abreu were better off using Jorginho and Rice against Porto from the start. I think that's what we should look to do. Louis says TGT and TDK again soon. Yeah, Alex tweeted me yesterday actually because there's a lot of talk about the youth team, and we had that big conversation about the youth team previously. So yeah, without a doubt, Louis. Fuad says, Tom, I saw there was a picture on Twitter that the doctor from Palace has already moved to Arsenal. I don't know if you saw or mentioned that. I haven't mentioned it, no. Iqbal, I think it is. Is it Zafi? Iqbal has moved to Arsenal, and he seemingly started earlier than expected. So good news, I guess. He's highly rated, and the club are very keen on bringing him in. Nell says that they are missing. I heard on the same old arse pod. What missing? Who are missing? Now, the entire backline isn't. Yeah, the entire backline apparently is missing for Brentford. They're without me. They're without Rico Henry. They're without Aaron Hickey. I think they're without. There's one more as well. Pinnock. Without Pinnock as well. He's also missing. So yeah, very. Very worrying for them. Very worrying indeed. Prodigy says, what's your Saturday match prediction? Well, if you tune in to our preview show, then you will indeed talk about, you will indeed hear what my prediction is. So make sure you tune in 5 or 6 o'clock today as well. Very much appreciate that as well. Manali says that Goldbridge was talking about Amrabat, who is on loan from Fiorentina as well. It's a nothing comment. Hey, look, it's a nothing comment, but I think calling your own players see you next Tuesdays on a stream in front of 10,000 plus, how many of 100,000 of people are watching? I just don't think it's all right. I just don't think that's okay. You know, I think it's abuse is what it is. And as I say, Mark's been on this channel. I've spoken with Mark on this channel. We've had even for a preview show before. Doesn't mean that I won't say how I feel about certain things just because I know the person, you know. So I just don't think it's all right to abuse players. I just don't. And I'll say it for what it is. So there you go. And speaking of that, by the way, of course, plenty of people tuned into yesterday's show. As I mentioned, thank you for the kind support that so many of you, 22,000 of you, plus tuned in, which is great. So thank you for that. At the end of yesterday's show, you know, I addressed a comment in a video that was left on the day before. Someone leaving a comment talking about the fact that they were asking me directly to not mention the women's team. And we talked about that. And thank you to all of those that left really supportive, defensive, kind comments about that, because that was really, really important to do that. And I think it's important to focus on the positive, because it's so easy it is for us to focus on the negative things. Trust me, I do it all the time. I get some really kind comments from a very supportive community, but it's hard when you get 2 or 3 horrible ones. You focus on them because we're human. It's what we do. So thank you to those that left the support. To those that sent messages trying to defend a person from telling me not to talk about the women's team, and for me criticizing them for telling me to not cover the women's team, I honestly don't really have too many words for you. I really think you need to take a good long look at yourselves in the mirror. I had a couple of people message defending them, and then when I explained what they'd said, they went, oh, I didn't realize that's what they said. That the instinct to defend rather than to get all the facts before you actually leave a comment is so important. So if you listen to the show, if you listen to what we're talking about, make sure you get all the facts before you leave a comment. It's really important that you do that. It avoids you looking a little bit silly in the comment section as well. You know, I'll lay it out on the line here so you're very clear on my position. If you don't like women's football, if you don't find it entertaining, if you don't care for it, that's fine. You don't have to. I'm not going to force or tell you to enjoy or like or be entertained by anything. It is your life, your choice to enjoy what you want to enjoy. And if you don't enjoy something, that's fine. But you don't need to come and tell me. And you don't need to go and tell other people, or you don't need to publicize your dislike, your disentertainment, if that's even a word, another TGTism coming out there. You just don't need to tell people. You know, and it's that publication of that dislike and your publication of that which crosses the line. Okay? You can dislike whatever you want to dislike at the end of the day, but keep it to yourselves. Just keep it to yourselves. We're going to talk about it. We're going to celebrate it. They've been fantastic. They got to a final, and we're talking about that in today's show. And we talked about that at the start of today's show, and it was great. Disinterest. Thank you, Temi. That's the word I'm looking for. So, yeah, just honestly, Honestly, it's crazy. It's a crazy world, but it's not going to stop us talking about what we want to talk about. It's not going to stop us calling out things that we're going to call out. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to reading through your comments again today and responding to as many of them as I can. But just please try and get all the facts before you leave a comment. Otherwise, you end up looking really silly. So yeah, please do that. Thank you to everyone that's tuned into today's show. I'll be back a little bit later on today to talk about the game against Brentford on Saturday, hopefully with some of our members from the Discord server. Have a fantastic day and enjoy yourselves because it's Thursday, which means Friday's around the corner. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal.